This is a difficult film, and not just because of its hard-hitting subject matter.
ஒரு நாள் எங்க மொத்த வாழ்க்கை மாறிடுச்சு. அப்பா போலீஸ் அரெஸ்ட் பண்ணிட்டாங்க. எங்க வச்சிருக்காங்கன்னு தெரியல.
Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage. I've reviewed more than 400 Indian movies on the channel, and today I want to talk about the new Tamil language legal drama Gargi. It came out theatrically in July and can now be streamed on Sony Liv. It was directed and co-written by Gautham Ramachandran, and it stars Sai Pallavi as the titular character Gargi, a young schoolteacher whose world is shattered when her father gets accused of having raped a young 9-year-old girl. She's convinced of his innocence and does everything in her power to prove that. She gets help by the inexperienced lawyer Indrans, played by Kali Venkat, as no one else is willing to risk their reputation for such a controversial case. A case that was also already picked up by the media, and therefore the general public, of course, already declares Gargi's father as guilty and want him to be hanged. The two biggest takeaways from Gautham Ramachandran's Gargi are the powerhouse performance by Sai Pallavi and the ending. I usually don't include spoiler segments in my review, especially not for new movies, but I think with this one I have to do, because I'm really conflicted about it. But let's talk about some other things first. Gargi is a completely serious and realistic drama that engages you through Sai Pallavi's incredible performance. She completely carries the movie, and at all times you can feel the immense pain and anxiety, and the huge burden that lies on her shoulders. The pressure on her, the intensity and the determination to fight back, to fight for her father and to protect her family from the horrible repercussions of being exposed to a public who wants to unleash all its anger on them. She bursts out into tears several times, but at no time in the movie does it feel forced or melodramatic. Instead, it feels very sincere. And there's this one really powerful moment in which she's finally able to visit her father in prison, and yet she's not able to face him and see him behind locked bars. So she hides behind a wall and mostly just listens as her father talks to Indrans. Kali Venkat also does a fine job as Indrans for the most part. I really liked how the film is giving us this unlikely pair. It's not about that powerhouse, super confident lawyer that knows all the legal tricks there are, but it's about someone who believes in their client and wants to support in a situation in which no one else is willing to. And Indrans also says that he has nothing to lose anyway. There are a few moments in which his character is also used as a little comedic relief, used to add at least some small bit of levity, which works okay. And so does the inclusion of his character having this stammer. I think it's good in terms of representation, showing a character who's not as confident and who suffers from a nervous stammer still being able to be a very positive and strong person. But I also think the movie is overdoing it at some points. For example, when he's facing off with the prosecutor. It's not so much his performance, but more so how the scene is staged and filmed, with both of them standing right next to each other. First, by doing these quick pans from one side to the other and then framing them both so ordinarily. Gargi is a smaller movie with a smaller budget, and I think it shows in some situations. For the most part, the technical aspects are really good or even great, like in one really impressive and anxiety-inducing long take before the courthouse in which the media and dozens of people want to get close to the possible culprit. I also liked a few black and white flashbacks that add an important side to the characterization of our protagonist Gargi. But then there are also some weaker moments, like some of the courtroom scenes, which also lack the strong presence of Sai Pallavi, as her character logically isn't in them. And for a film that's so grounded and realistic, I thought the short scene in which Gargi is trying to get free legal advice is really kind of comical. It's realized with these ominous fades to black and only shows people either sleeping, mindlessly shoving food into their mouth, or being occupied with their phone, while their office is a complete mess. Fortunately, the whole segment is just half a minute, but it's still so heavy-handed and stood out like a sore thumb to me. I also think the prosecutor comes across a little bit too much like a caricature villain, especially when he's juxtaposed with the police inspector who handles the case. I think Pratap gives a really nuanced and natural performance as Benix. Now when it comes to the judge, I feel a little bit similar as to that stammer of Indrans. I applaud the representation of a transgender judge, but there's also that one moment in which that fact is reflected through a little speech about what it means to feel as a woman and as a man, and I think that's a bit too on the nose. I also felt the character of Aishwarya Lakshmi, who also co-produced the movie, didn't fit in that well. She's a journalist who, despite a lack of hard evidence, reveals the identity of the accused to the public. Somehow it felt to me as if the movie makes her role bigger than it actually is, as if we should know the character, but we really don't. But most of these criticisms aren't really a detriment to the film overall, as the performance of Sai Pallavi, the unusual dynamic between Gargi and Indrans, and the very grounded treatment of the story are much bigger and really engage you despite a slow pace and lack of super big twists and turns. Well, there is the ending though, and I think now it's time for a spoiler warning. If you haven't watched Gargi, I definitely recommend it. And while I'm still conflicted about the ending, it nonetheless sticks with you and makes you think. And I think that alone speaks to the impact of the film. I would lie if I said that I knew it was coming, but I can say that I wasn't that surprised. And the reason for that is that I felt the movie wasn't really questioning the guilt of Gargi's father Brahmanandam at all. In the beginning, I was wondering if Gargi might have some doubts, but for her it was always clear that her father must be innocent. And when those little flashbacks also come to the conclusion that her father saved her at a young age from a sexual predator, there was really no possibility for him to commit such a horrendous crime. But, and this is the big twist of the movie, he is in fact guilty. And I think this is a fascinating turn of events, and like I said earlier, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I like the fact that it really challenges the movie's protagonist. We thought Gargi's world was already shattered through the accusations, but this is a completely different level. Her father has been her hero ever since childhood, and now she has to come to terms with him being a rapist. The fact that she does the right thing, that she doesn't try to cover it up, it's really powerful, and it shows a tremendous transformation and gives the film a feeling of empowerment, in spite of all the implications this revelation has about society, rape culture and the patriarchy. The central message of the movie up until that point seemed to be that someone is innocent until proven otherwise, and that it's super dangerous to let the media and general public determine the outcome of a case. And I think that's a super important message. Now, the twist doesn't completely negate that, but it does leave a sour taste in my mouth. Now the message to me seems to be that no matter how much you think you know a person, you still can't be sure that they aren't capable of committing some horrible crime. I'm all for the notion that everyone must be put to justice, no matter if it's a close family member or any other person you really care for. And I can't deny that the ending really moved me, but I have a hard time as well completely accepting it. In a way, the movie tricked us into this false security that Brahmananda must be innocent. Neither Gargi nor Indrans ever question it. The movie doesn't really do either, and R.S. Shivaji plays him as this ordinary family man who looks so nice and harmless. And in that regard, this reminded me a little bit of those very late Nazi trials, in which men who look like sweet old grandfathers are held accountable for their crimes against humanity. Looking at them, you would never know that they were capable of some of the most evil things possible. But they were, and some nice or ordinary appearance shouldn't mislead us to think they weren't. Still, I have a hard time fully believing in the situation presented in Gargi. We could assume the movie only shows us the perspective of Gargi and omits any signs that Brahmanandam would be capable of something like this. But I feel this is too much just legitimizing the idea that anybody is always suspicious of the most heinous acts. I simply have a hard time fully believing that this man, father of 2 daughters, one of them being almost the same age as the victim, just decides to rape a 9-year-old girl who lies bleeding in the house he works as a serviceman, and then carries her back to her family. To me, it feels too much like an ending that just wants to have this huge shock appeal. It is very important that we listen and that we believe people who have become victims in a crime like this. But prior to the twist, the movie laid out perfectly reasonably why that is very difficult in this case. They didn't find matching DNA, the girl was drugged when questioned, and it was her father who made her point to the accused. So I had never the impression that this was about believing a victim or not. It's also one of those shock endings that renders a rewatch of the film rather unnecessary. At least I think it does. because it's still rather long and basically all of what Gargi and Indran's are doing is completely in vain. Not that rewatchability is necessarily a factor in determining if something is a good movie or not, but I do feel a bit cheated. I don't know, it's a powerful ending and a shock, and like I said, it certainly makes you think, and I give the movie credit for that. But it doesn't sit completely right with me either, and I'm curious to hear your opinion about it. So, in German I'd say: Gargi ist ein starkes Drama mit einer noch viel stärkeren Sai Pallavi in der Hauptrolle und einem immens wichtigen Thema. Das Ende macht zweifellos nachdenklich, lässt mich aber auch widersprüchlich zurück. I give Gargi 7 out of 10. It's more like 6.8, but I don't do that. Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about Gargi. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd and also on Patreon, simply at TheJimmyCage. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.